for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right. Good evening. Yeah. How you doing? It's Fade to Black. Today's Wednesday. Wednesday, March 18th, 2026. So let's do this, man. Been looking forward to this show tonight. Here we go. Yeah, this week on Fade to Black, Monday night, we had Nick Sconia with us, self-awareness. Great conversation. Last night, Gabian Marin was with us. It was St. Paddy's Day. And tonight, Luigi Sciambarella. Yeah. Yeah, you like that, Luigi? You like that? You like that? Give me a nod. Give me a nod. Yeah, that was good. That was good. Tomorrow night, we're off air. I'm going to be out in Sedona with a bunch of beautiful souls for the Sedona Ascension Retreat this weekend. Really looking forward to that. I've been fighting a cold since I got back from Denver shooting Beyond Belief, and it's been rough, but I'm better. You know how it is when you know you're like, okay, I'm better. No, I'm not. Yeah, I am. I'm better. Well, that's where I'm at right now. Yeah. Okay, enough of that. The show must go on. See, I never tell when I was going through the cold in its harshest stages. I don't tell anybody. I don't come on the show and say, I'm not feeling. No, you just come on. You guys are here, right? This stuff is going out, all of the networks, everything. No, man, I'm fine. I confess today because I was sneezing a lot this morning. I was like, man, I'm going to sneeze on the show. I'm going to have to come clean with everybody. All right. So tonight is the Monroe Institute, people. I'm very excited about this. And I was looking at the chat. Well, not all of the chat, but part of the chat before the show. And Bill comes in with, we need to, let me see if I can find it. Bill said, we need to remote view Jimmy's shirt tonight. Okay. Which I found very interesting. So, yeah. Remote, where did I get this shirt? Where did I get this shirt? That's it. If somebody nails that accurately, remote view this. Remote view me buying this shirt. And I will be very impressed. And so will Luigi, actually. Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. So yeah, remote view the shirt. It's right there. Oh man. Yeah, let's see. You guys are professionals. You guys know what's going on. All right, I'm going to be out in Sedona this weekend for the Sedona Ascension Retreat. And it's this weekend, March 20th through the 22nd in Sedona, Arizona. If you haven't done so yet and you are going, go to SedonaAscensionRetreats.com. Tickets, info. They have individual day passes and all kinds of fun ways for you kids to get in and hang out with us. We will be doing, I think it's Friday night, Fade to Black live on stage. Yeah, so that's going to be really interesting how we're going to handle that. That's going to be a lot of fun. So, SedonaAscensionRetreats.com. All right. So there you go. Remote view the shirt tonight. Bill, I'll leave it to you and Jessica and John to repost anybody's answers, and we'll see. Jennifer says at a Harley Davidson store. You are 100% correct, but you didn't remote view that. Yeah, that was pretty good, though. That was pretty good. All right. So let's get this started. Luigi Sciambarella is with us tonight. He's been with the Monroe Institute. Well, I'll let him tell the story, but he's been there as a teacher, because they have different divisions there too as well. So, but over 16 years. And that is pretty interesting. The consciousness part of it, lucid dreaming, of course. And who is Robert Monroe? What do they do there? The sound technologies and everything else that is happening. I am deeply, deeply, deeply interested in this subject. As everybody knows, I was going to go to the Monroe Institute in December. Everything was done. Everything was finished. And I was very excited about that. And I got yanked away to go and shoot something for one of the big networks. And I only did that, because it was a friend of mine that needed me, that was directing it. And I did it as a favor, and I accepted that. And then I went and looked, and it was right smack, and I couldn't pull off both. It was just one of those things. So I will get out to the Monroe Institute, and I will go through the program, and would love to do it with Luigi. He is an outreach and residential trainer for the Monroe Institute. He lives over in England, and he runs stuff over there as well. Lucid dreaming experiences. He has had those. We're going to get into that deeply. And what he does there in the professional division of the Monroe Institute. Links are below. I would like to welcome for the first time to Fade to Black, Luigi Sciambarella. Yeah. Now I'm correct, and I feel good. I feel confident. How are you, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on the show. Great to be here.
It's good. So you live in England, but you're at the Monroe Institute right now on the East Coast. So
yeah, we're having a board meeting this week. I'm on the board of the Institute as well. And I'm in the control room, so you're actually all backstage here. This
is great.
This is the magic room. There's like contraptions over here where we start the meditations off, and everyone in their own private areas, what we call check units, would be getting the audios, but it's all controlled from this room. So
yeah, very cool, very cool. During the break, I want to try to remember this. Monroe gave me one of their softball jackets. Have you seen that? The silver one, right? With the Monroe. Yeah, man.
That was special edition for the Psy games, I think.
Yeah. I got the kit. I got the kit, man. I got the kit. And they look so good. So I'll go and grab it and show everybody during the break. I don't think not many people. That's a limited edition, man.
Yeah, super limited edition. I think it was the Monroe team was issued that. So you were included in the Monroe team.
Well, so I've got one for you if you want it. But here's the thing: they were so nice, right? And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to get one of those jackets. Somebody's going to be really upset when they see the jacket missing, right?
Yeah,
and they hooked me up, man. Yeah, they hooked me up. I'm so proud of that. They look really good. But anyway, the board. Let me ask you about the board really quick. Is it high pressure? Are the board meetings high pressure? Are you guys firing the CEO and
quite the opposite? Quite the opposite. Alan, since Alan took over, we've gone from strength to strength, really. These are very enjoyable board meetings. We just look at all the new things that we're involved in, the rapid expansion of the Institute. So it's a lot of positive news. Yeah, so we're excited about gathering this week, and it's full of cool people who are very mission driven.
Yeah, right on. So you're not in any trouble or anything like that?
No. There's obviously a sense of urgency to get, as much of the world population connected to themselves and others, and our tools can very much help with that. we're seeing, obviously there's a lot of people who are experiencing anxiety and depression, and it's a growing trend. I mean, for various reasons. What we do at the Institute is an antidote to that, so it's how can we get to more people, essentially. That's the big
do you feel, I like that sense of urgency thing, but do you feel that consciousness and the term and what it is for the first time, maybe in history, certainly in modern history and modern science, is something that is actually seriously being talked about now outside of our circles?
Yeah, very much so. Like when I first started, it was 2010 that I trained to be a trainer. I've been working with Monroe's tools for maybe 5 years prior. And it was really niche. I studied as an undergrad at Manchester psychology, trying to work out some of my early experiences, and basically the prevailing thought was this is it's a materialist paradigm, objectivist paradigm, and if you were experiencing anything other, then that's just a byproduct of all kinds of cognitive biases and other things that just
is that where you were is that where you were raised, is up in Manchester?
Just a little bit further north from that. I was born in Blackburn.
That's very interesting to me, because that area, which I love, by the way, but if you're gonna walk around with crystals and talk consciousness,
no, that doesn't happen. That's not the scene. No,
that's not the scene there, is it?
No, it's kind of like walking into like a Manchester United territory wearing a Manchester City shirt and vice versa. You'd probably get more acceptance, actually. It's not the sort of thing that people talk about in the local pub.
No, not up there. But you do have, I don't know if this is a fact, but Manchester has to be the biggest shopping mall in the world.
Oh, with the Trafford Centre?
Is it the biggest in the world?
I don't know if it's the biggest in the world, but it is pretty huge. Yeah. And it sucks out your soul.
I mean, I was not prepared for that.
It's not. It's one of those places that for whatever reason, like if it's bad weather or something like that, people just think, hey, let's go to the Trafford Centre because it's covered. And then you step inside and you realize everybody thought the same thing. And why the heck did we all do this? So it's collective punishment, really. I mean,
yeah.
Don't know why we do it.
Probably hold millions of people. I mean,
it's huge. Yeah, it's huge.
And it's beautiful too. It is. It's really really nice.
Pick your times of day to go there, because
you can But you can tell that I've been there if I bring that up. You wouldn't think, and it's gorgeous. It's huge though. It's huge. That's a whole day trip if you're gonna walk through that entire thing. Wow. It's like Rome. It reminds me of like Rome.
Yeah, they put all this kind of like Roman kind of architecture or pseudo-Roman
sculpture and
frescoes and everything else like that. Yeah, I used to walk around it quite a lot actually when I was at university because you could get free parking there. So a friend of mine, we'd meet up, we'd do some experiments in the lab, and then we'd go have lunch in the Trafford Centre and then leave before everyone else flooded in. So I know it very well, and it does kind of go back to my undergrad days. But I wouldn't say that it's the most conscious kind of territory I'd want to hang about with too much. When you do this kind of work a lot and meditating and so on, then your energy is kind of a bit more expanded, and people tend to go through malls in a kind of aggressive way. So
you're right about that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a couple of stories off of the air about that mall. Okay, so moving on. So, before we get into the history of the Institute and Robert, I'm going to talk about you for a second.
Okay.
So, you just mentioned going to university.
Yep.
Did you have any leanings towards the conscious community or things outside of this reality?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, the story that I normally tell is that when I was 7 years old, I saw my dead grandmother. And that just, I mean, obviously it piqued my interest.
That's a game changer. Sure.
Yeah, it's a game changer. I mean, she kind of came through like leaning out of a painting in my bedroom. And the hint I give to people who, maybe are grandparents themselves is when you die, don't do that. It's not the best way of sort of like just introducing yourself back to your grandchild. It might scare them a bit. But that's what happened. And she looked great. I mean, when she died, she had jaundice of the liver. The last time I saw her in the physical, she was yellow and bloated, and didn't have long and dropped into a coma and all that kind of stuff. So to see her really well, again, piqued my interest. I wasn't particularly, I mean, it's not like I was grieving in any major way. I know that sounds a little bit odd, but I was born in England. She was in Italy. And so a lot of time could pass, and she wouldn't be in my awareness, and so I became very curious about the experience. But not only that, like the same morning that I had that experience and then told my mother, my brother had a parallel experience. So he'd also seen my grandmother that morning and related it independently to my mother. So I thought this is interesting because there's kind of a shared space where you can connect with people who have died and that they don't die really. And actually they look pretty well. And there's a safety in death. And it's a transition point. You can communicate maybe in these kind of threshold spaces, these liminal spaces. So, roll that forward. I was very interested in this. But when I was speaking with other people about it, they kind of looked at me a little bit like I had three heads. So I kept it quiet. But, I mean, there was in the family, there was an openness to discuss a little bit, even though, we were a Roman Catholic family, it was okay to talk about the deceased and so on. But then when I went to university, and the reason why I studied psychology was to try to figure out, what was that experience? Is there any understanding of this? And the understanding was essentially to dismiss the experience. But I thought, well, that doesn't sit right, because my brother also had it. And for me to have an illusory experience is okay. I can kind of figure that can happen. There's 8 billion people on the planet. Why not me? But for my brother to have it at the same time, and then for me to have other experiences and other family members to have experiences as well, I thought, no, there's too much smoke here. So I started tunneling sideways. So, I mean, I enjoyed my psychology degree. I learned a lot about, the psychology, neuroscience, and so on. But I started to look at alternative things. And I came across hypnosis. I ended up doing a lot of self-hypnosis, guided hypnosis. And then I started to have a lot of out-of-body experiences and lucid dreams. And that put me onto the work of Bob Monroe. And that's how I found out about the technology that the Institute was using, the gateway process. And that led on to everything else that followed in terms of engaging with the programs and so on.
When authority tells somebody, especially a child, don't listen to that music, it's bad, right? Well, that's what you're going to go and listen to. That's the first album you're going to buy, right? You're going to rebel. And or anything else like this. So for you had your experience, you're in college, you're dealing with the mind in college in your studies. And as soon as they say something like that, well, then you're going to go and check that out. They're not helping.
I was curious. I mean, it wasn't just about rebellion. It was just like, no, that doesn't fit, and there's kind of, I want to put it lighter than arrogance, but there's a sort of arrogance in academia, because people build reputations on it and so on. So they say, no, this is absolutely how it works. And I mean, that's just a hypothesis, right? I mean,
Right.
you can build information to that, and that's perfectly fine. That's the nature of science. And you work with the best you've got. But I'm thinking, if a hypothesis can only be tested by dismissing other people's experiences, then that to me is a weak hypothesis. And this is why I really like Bob Monroe's approach, because he was a guy who in the 1950s, working in radio, spontaneously started having out-of-body experiences, didn't have a clue what they were, actually started to popularize the term out-of-body experience. People weren't writing the term before him, really. I mean, Tyrell had written it at sort of turn of the century, but, it certainly wasn't popular before Journeys Out of the Body that Bob wrote. And he was documenting his experiences in a very methodical way because he didn't know what they were and whether they were going to kill him or, it meant that he was going insane or whatever. So he was really curious about what was going on. And when he realized this isn't going to kill me, he starts to kind of throw money behind it and do a bit of research and sort of say, okay, well, what does this experience mean? Can other people have it? And then that ultimately led to the development of the technology, which then he called Hemi-Sync, but it was a binaural beat technology. And that was the origin of people using binaural beats for expanded states experiences. I mean, it started with Bob Monroe. I mean, like anything that you come across in terms of binaural beats nowadays has its origin with Bob Monroe, acknowledged or not, right? And so to me, I thought, well, if this guy was religious, really, he didn't have a strong belief system, and that's not a problem if you do, but, he wasn't coming at it from he's conditioned massively, and therefore then he has these experiences. He wasn't expecting them at all, and he's having these experiences, and he's curious and can go on and explore them. Then, why shouldn't I have a go at trying to work out what these experiences are, maybe amplify them in some way and utilize them in some way? And it's not just about having the experience, but it's like, what does it mean, to have an awareness outside of the confines of your physical body, to be able to perceive, not using just your physical senses. And that's not to dismiss the body. I love being in a body. I'd rather stay in one, as long as I can. And I know that it isn't the end if I leave it. I know what that territory is that exists beyond this physical system, but I'm not, rushing towards it. I mean, it's just like that. Go in and out. And that can really help people, to reduce the fear of death, but also specifically reduce the fear of life. Because if not everything is fight or flight in this reality, then why am I here? It's not about just about survival and reproduction. It's actually a lot deeper than that. So
isn't that it's crazy how that fundamental question, and it is truly fundamental, it is foundational. Why are we here? Right? It's like the fundamental. Okay, where do we come from? Where do we go after we die? Okay, those are there, but they don't have as much weight as that middle question. Why am I here? And when somebody has an accidental, they're not pursuing it, and they have something external, some type of out-of-body lucid situation that happens to them. Well, now they know that it can be. So now they're going to go and try and check that out and try to find out why that happened. Because now you are exposed to something very, very wonderful, right?
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. And that can kind of scare people in a way that there's something just that's actually beyond the mechanics, I mean, the only piece of dogma that we have at the Monroe Institute is to seriously consider that you're more than your physical body. That's it. That you're more than your physical senses, that you're more than the story that you tell yourself about yourself and others. What if that isn't the whole picture? What does that mean? And what do I want it to mean? I mean, you're an active participant in your personal growth process. It's not necessarily the case that we're here with a specific purpose. I think purpose is can be developed, and it depends on when, I mean, you're a different person at different times in your life and in different contexts, and we have so much freedom actually that sometimes when we tell ourselves such a restrictive story, then we put ourselves in some sort of box. And this is what Bob was trying to articulate many, many times, actually, that our belief systems lock us into a very limited worldview. And those beliefs can really hijack our senses, because they'll constrain us to think, oh, this is the real world. This is what it's like. And it's not. The real world, as we tend to perceive it, is just a load of people thinking the same thing, and that's what they end up creating. And then, of course, everything else that's not thought of so often seems like fantasy or imagination. That's the hope, I suppose, that this particular path can open up for people, that actually there's other possibilities, and you're responsible for yourself. You're accountable to yourself, and training that is a training process. We need to relearn how to be the captains in our own lives, that because we're the ones that need to steer the ship.
Well, it's such it's so complex, but it's such an easy thing to explain to anybody that doesn't know or doubts or whatever. It's a very simple concept for me. Molecules. I've got the Jimmy molecules over here. You've got the Luigi molecules there. I've got, here's my passport. I've got my passport molecules, right? All the same molecules. Why do some molecules become Jimmy molecules? Mm-hmm. Why do you have Luigi molecules? And now these are all the same. There isn't different molecules, right? It's all the same. When you look at it that way, there is something beyond science that is involved here. And it's probably all consciousness driven one way or another. But that's it. How it's like the most confusing thing to me, but it's also the most simple thing to answer. Something is determining why you are you and why I am me. And it is more divine and spiritual, or whatever you want to call it, that exists outside of the body, right?
Mm-hmm. And I mean, even with that, with the molecule consideration, I mean, you replace every cell in your body, every 8 years or something like that. So I mean, there's a field of Jimmy-ness that stays intact, right?
Yes,
and molecules can come in and out of that.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
And I don't know what the answer is to that. Like, why is it that somebody's perceived in a particular configuration? And then I can also be in multiple places at once. I mean, when I have an out-of-body experience, or when you're doing a remote viewing, for instance. And this was also an interesting discovery, I suppose, by Bob Monroe, what you refer to as the phasing model of consciousness. That, taking the radio analogy, there are different realities that are overlapping all the time right now. And just like you have like different radio broadcasts in this very room,
Wi-Fi.
But I mean, like, if my brain is more like a receiver, then what I can learn to do is tune into the channels that are going on, and I would be perceiving different realities. And the thing that we do, like in the Gateway program and various other programs at the Monroe Institute and our tech, it's to help people to deliberately be able to tune in to some of these channels. So it's not that one channel is better than another or more real than another. It's just that, we just learn to turn the dial.
That's a really good point. What's the mission statement for Monroe?
Well, I suppose it's more like a global awakening of humanity, and using our sound technology and educational programs. How can we help as many people? We're trying to reach like 1% of the world population with a direct experience that they're more than their physical bodies. That we've actually got to remember our shared humanity, our shared connection that goes beyond the physical, but also connects through the physical, and that we're actually a lot more interconnected than we tend to think we are. We exist in a field, and that, physics is there already. It's not, I'm not going to go into, because it's beyond my pay grade, how all of that's kind of worked out. But we know that what we think is a separate sense of self isn't that at all. And that's just a story. And so, like, what would it mean if people really knew that we have a shared nature, and that actually our thoughts have impacts, our emotions have impact, that is more than just, maybe having an argument with somebody or whatever, but we actually contribute to a field, and that then is reflected back to us in some way. So the mission statement is, helping people to raise their awareness. How can we help people to become more self-reflective so that they connect better with themselves and others?
What did Bob ever figure out, Robert Monroe? Did Bob ever figure out what those original triggers were, those original out-of-body experiences, and what was triggering them?
What was triggering them? I mean, he was doing a lot of sleep research at the time. He was trying to see whether you could learn during sleep. So he was playing around with different methodologies to try to kind of induce sleep. And he was a primary guinea pig of that. So he did a lot of self-hypnosis and then playing with different sound methods and so on. So that might have been a part of the process, because he was the primary guinea pig. I mean, he was very curious about it. So he was testing a lot on himself. And usually if you're consciously going to sleep, because we normally just plunge through sleep, but if you deliberately slow it down, you start to enter in between spaces like that on the entry into dreaming, for instance, is called the hypnagogic state. If you slow down and experience the hypnagogic state, then sometimes people start to experience things like the vibrational state. And that's what he was getting a lot, like basically for a year before he had his first out-of-body experience. That's the bit that actually scared him the most. Before the out-of-body, he thought, whoa, is there something neurologically going on here? And then they would just fade. And then, like, one night he thought about going flying the next day while the vibrations were happening, and he found himself on the ceiling. So that was the actual trigger for his first out-of-body experience. So that was, it's not just about the physiology, body being very relaxed while mind's awake, but also then engaging in something with your mind while that experience is happening, so that you move your mind away from your body. So a lot of the what we call the gateway process is not just the technology, but about what to do with the mental tools, essentially, that can prepare you.
When I was a kid, man, I haven't talked about this in a long time, but when I was a kid, and I've talked to so many people that have gone through the same experience, I am not in any way unique here. But when I was a kid, 5 years old, very specific time in my life, all I had was out-of-body flying dreams. Okay? Just constantly.
What age were you then?
5.
Okay.
And I was in kindergarten, very specific place and stuff. So anyway, but they stopped. Very strange. And I rather enjoyed them. And they were absolutely real. They were very fun. But they stopped.
Right.
I've never had that out-of-body flying dream as an adult. Now, that, as I relay that to you, is this something that we naturally experience at some point in our lives, and maybe when we're younger?
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah. A lot of people, when they've had their first out-of-body experience, is usually from that age, between 5 and 8, something like that. Then it depends on the environment, how supportive it is or not, and whether there's any practices and so on that people can continue. In Western territories, typically there aren't really any major supportive practices. In the East, there's a lot more going on. So people do maintain it better, but they don't make a big deal of it. It's just part of following a spiritual path and meditating. It's not seen as you being more advanced or anything like that. I mean, some can get spiritual egos out of it, but it's not the goal. So that's kind of where we start. We have this kind of freedom, and we might remember more flying dreams or visitation dreams. People, I already saw in the chat, people say, oh yeah, I saw my dead grandmother too, and things like that. Yeah, when you're a child, you're more likely to have those experiences. And that is very normal, but then it depends on the environment, how supportive or not it is. Usually it's just a dream, honey, go back to bed. That's
right. Of course. How did Bob start to put his ideas and his work into a program to start the Institute?
Well, I mean, it was before it was even an institute. He, in the early 70s, I think it was 71, he published his first book. So you're talking roundabout then that the first gateway was starting to be formed. It took place actually at the Esalen Center at Big Sur. And then, he was kind of taking it on the road. I mean, you'd just be putting like hotels and just load of mattresses on the floor and people going for it. That's the way he was doing it. But the Institute set up, I think, officially in 74. And then expanded from there in terms of its size and so on. And then after he died in 95, then his house was converted into another center, which is where I am now. Actually, I'm in the annex of, and Bob's house is just up there, and the cabin where he wrote his book. So so the campus is in Virginia and has been here, for all that time. Yeah.
Do you look at Robert as a trailblazer?
Oh yeah.
Well, hold on. or is it an extension of ancient esoteric knowledge?
Both.
Right.
Both. Because what Bob did, and his team did, was they kind of digitized something that has been done for thousands of years, using audio to help people. I mean, the big insight there was realizing that, first of all, brainwave states are measurable. You know when somebody's in particular dominant frequencies, and because your brain just cycles all of these frequencies, and you can measure them with electroencephalographs and all that kind of stuff. But that you then use audio to guide them into specific configurations. That was the key insight, So it's like, how do you get the sound in so that it maybe targets like delta states, because it's below the hearing threshold. And the discovery was that you could use binaural beats to do that. So, if you played 100 hertz in one ear, 104 in the other, your brain works out the differential, and that's what it's pulsing at. So you get like a 4 hertz rhythm in the brain. If you just presented 4 hertz, it would be below the hearing threshold. Your brain wouldn't hear it. Your ears wouldn't register it. So that's how you get the sound in. And then you get what's called a frequency following response. So once you start playing these frequencies for a certain amount of time, then the brain starts to follow it. So if you've got somebody who's in a very stressful beta frequency and you start playing delta, you can guide them into more relaxed and then asleep states. And then the trick was to try to work out what would be the combination, the layered mixes that would support somebody going into a mind awake body asleep state, or an expanded awareness state, or a sense of not really caring about time so much. This is what then became the focus levels as we use them in our programs. So these are like the radio stations that were mapped out by Bob.
It's just so fascinating to me. By the way, okay, Luigi, sleep is sport to me. I take that shit very serious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
My room is set up. Man. I love it. Okay. I love it. So you're preaching to the choir here. I'm soaking all of this up.
Yeah.
But here, okay. So walk me through the Gateway program. If that is the case, is the program done at night?
No, we
You
let
understand why
people-
I'm asking, right? If
I
you're dealing
I
with sleep.
I do understand why you're asking. And that's my playground, because normally, like I started with out of body experiences, but I actually quickly found them boring. I know that sounds a bit weird, but like once I'd already had the validation that you're more than your physical body and you don't die with my grandmother at 7. So that was the kind of major experience that put me on the path. But the reason why I found them boring is because I would have these experiences typically at 3 a.m. while I was an undergrad, and even students are asleep at that time. So I'd float out my body, I'd land in my bedroom, I'd look around and think, wow, this is cool. Nobody's up. I'm not going to be a creep and go through the wall into any other students' rooms and just validate stuff. So I'd be walking down, and it's like there's empty pizza boxes. Well, big deal. And an empty bottle of Jack Daniels, big deal. I mean, it's not like it's like, well, yeah, but I'm still local. I'm in local traffic. So I was kind of thinking, oh, what am I supposed to do here? Call to guides or go into different realities, and that really wasn't happening for me. So I was just constantly in my student halls of residence, and I validated some things, which was cool, but there's no one to high five at that time of night. So it was actually by accident that I went from an out of body experience into a lucid dream. So now I'm conscious in my dream, but when I'm in my dream world, then that's teeming with life, and it all relates to me as a separate sense of self. Like all the dream characters are aspects of me. The whole environment is an aspect of me. So I use that a lot more as a psychotherapeutic tool, getting to know myself much better. And I thought that the lucid dream allowed me to do that more effectively than the out of body state. So that's what I started.
Were you journaling all of this?
Yeah. I've been journaling, for about 23, 24 years, something like that, daily.
Right.
I write my dreams down every day because that keeps the memory of them going, and also the experiences in altered states can keep going if you dream journal daily. You can dream 4 or 5 times a night. I mean, recall has to be trained exquisitely. But when I was at university, I could easily remember about 3 dreams a night. And so then I could have like 3 lucid dreams a night that I remembered. So this is my practice. I've been building that. So I got very interested in lucid dreaming as a self psychotherapeutic tool. And it's something I still use today. I mean, I'm a psychotherapist as well. I teach people to be psychotherapists, and I teach people how they can start to include this in their practice as well. I find it to be an incredible tool for raising your own self-awareness. And it's always a mirror.
One of the reasons why I am so into this, I was probably 14. I'm going to go 14, 15, like right in there, 14, 15 years old, where I started to figure out a process where I could enter and start my favorite dream and restart it, right?
Yep.
I'm a kid. I've never read anything about this. I'm smoking weed and playing guitar. I'm not, you know what I mean, right? And I started this all on my own, where I get ready for bed. Dude, I'm in 10th grade. I'm a sophomore. I'm like, okay, man, I'm going to do that dream tonight.
Yep.
Pull up my covers, get ready, boom. And I figured that out. I do it to this day, to this very day. I can choose my dream. I can choose the scene, the entry point, pick it up at the end of it, restart it. It's amazing. But is that technique, is that conscious? Is that lucid dreaming? Is where
So-
I'm
so-
thinking
so
a
the-
scene?
That's dream incubation, which is a fantastic practice and it's a very cool experience, by the way.
I
Not
love
everyone
it,
can
man.
do that. And it's trainable. But one of the key elements of lucid dreaming is that you know that it's a dream while you're having the dream.
Mm-hmm.
So you're inside a dream. And then there's various levels of like self-awareness within that. So you can control your awareness and shape the dream in some way, or change the scene, or interact with elements, but you're being very deliberate. So yeah, that's specifically lucid dreaming. But dream incubation with lucid dreaming, so you would say something like, okay, this is what I want to dream about, and this is the entry point. And when I meet that entry point, then I will do a reality check. I will look at my hands and notice that I have an extra finger. I will recognize that I'm dreaming, feel the excitement of that, and then go flying or whatever it is. So it has, you can build into that story the element of recognizing that you're dreaming, and it'll just bring a certain part of your frontal lobe online so that you can be a little bit more self-aware within the dreamscape.
I totally dig that ability, and I've just trained myself to do it over the years.
Yeah.
And I've never talked about it with friends. Or how do you do that? You don't, hey man, so last night, man.
Yeah. It shuts down very quickly.
No, they want to talk about.
When you have the dream, when you do, and they go, But back to your earlier question, which is about consciousness, and that people do talk like that now. And actually, more than half the population will have a lucid dream at some point in their life.
For
up
sure.
to about 20 to 25% have it every month. So it's actually a lot easier to find people who've had those experiences and could talk coherently about them. Movies like Inception, for instance, have made them cool, and made their way into popular culture as well.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, nightmares are actually the way that most people have lucid dreams, but then
Lucid hey, Luigi, I say this to people all the time. I love a good nightmare. I do, man. I really do. If I have to wake up and put my feet on the floor going, that was intense. You know what? That was a good night. That's a good night.
Yeah. But
okay, hold on. Let's pump the brakes for a second. You mentioned, okay, so frequencies, radios, and tuning, that's nearly infinite. Once you get in on a signal, well, there's inside of that signal too as well. You can refine it, and it's an infinite. So you have your radio dial, your sleep dial, whatever, your frequency dial. But are you suggesting, just so my understanding of this is really clear, that you can adjust that frequency and change the dream state, extend it, or change what is going on while you are dreaming to the infinite? So can you change the mood? Can you change the darkness, the lightness? Can you change the location? Is all of this possible?
Not specifically, because what you can do is you can open up access to a state. Maybe you can make it so that the state is more accessible and that is extended a little bit. But what you can obviously do is change the content, because access, like, it's like saying, well, when you turn the dial and you tune into a radio station, you don't know what's playing. Any songs could be playing on that channel, but that it's got a similar feel to it because it's Radio 1 versus Radio 4 or whatever. So whenever you tune in, it's going to be different. So the content of the dream experience, or the content of what happens in a gateway track, is going to be different. But we can look at it and say, this person has a dominant particular rhythm, which is like this, and this. And therefore, they're more likely to be having an experience. If we start seeing certain signatures like gamma synchrony or something like that, we know that person's having quite likely having some sort of peak experience, but it doesn't.
And you're
really
measuring all of this. I would put a helmet on.
You can do. Yeah. You can
Yeah.
put an EEG. We normally use like a headband EEG from Nuforia, great company, and super simple to use. We also use like open BCI stuff, so that's like multi-channel EEGs and so on. So if you want to get into the granularity, you need more channels. But it's trickier to fall asleep or to meditate with like a full headset on, So this is why we went for the simplicity of the single headband.
Are there frequencies that you guys avoid?
Not really. I mean, we don't play sort of like high beta, for instance. I mean, people.
I'm asking you.
They're like highly stressed anyway. You know what I mean? So it's like you wouldn't want to play something that would stress people out even more. But you could, but like we've never developed frequencies on that. So no, there's nothing that we really avoid. It depends what you're trying to do. Like if you want to go to sleep, then play some delta signals in, that'll help you to fall asleep. But I wouldn't do that while I'm trying to, write an essay or complete a project, So it's just about what do you want to tune into? And this is the thing about the Gateway program, so actually we don't do a lot of meditations in the nighttime because we want your brain to reset and actually consolidate and build new neurons, and there's neuroplasticity. All of that neurogenesis, making new neurons, happens during the night. And for neurogenesis, you need sleep and you need water. So that's happening when you're in deep sleep predominantly. So all of the stuff that we're juicing people up with in the daytime, all the meditations, they are paced throughout the day, and then you need to consolidate in the nighttime. So we don't mess with the night. Sleep is really important. And then that sets them up for the next day. So the next morning they'll come with a new brain, essentially. And the more you do that, the more you retrain your brain, the more you access and strengthen areas in your brain that might not have been exercised so much. You're doing repetitions like you would be going to the gym, but with certain muscles in your brain that then strengthen over time. So they strengthen in density and they strengthen in terms of interconnectivity. So it's not just about strengthening in one location, but like how does it talk to the rest of the brain? And this is that process that Bob Monroe referred to as hemispheric synchronization, both of the hemispheres talking to each other more. That's what he was aiming for, but it takes practice, because you're always practicing. When you're not doing it deliberately, then you're training it unconsciously, so what we're trying to help people to do with our tools is to say, build up some sort of regular practice. Here's some audios that can help your brain to get into these configurations much more easily. And there's guidance within those audios to tell you what you could be focusing on, what to do. And then, so you don't get lost just listening to sounds, and then those frequencies will help your brain to stay in that configuration to get a feel for it. And then when the exercise ends, when the meditation ends, it's not like your brain just comes immediately out of that. It's primed and it just holds that optimal state for longer. So when we're doing this repeatedly during a week of Gateway, for instance, then your brain is being saturated with these signals and it's strengthening those networks and you're sleeping on it. So by the end of the week, you really got a new brain. I mean, what you do with it beyond that, hopefully you've had a bunch of experiences as well in terms of what you can get out of being in those altered states as well that are useful even for this reality. And then that way it kind of reinforces itself. You'll want to meditate more at home, but you're then doing it deliberately. It's not just this unconscious strengthening networks. Like you can strengthen fear networks. You just go on the news, look at all the crap that's going on there. That is strengthening your fear circuitry. It's firing up your amygdala. It's all in that brainstem activation, fight or flight response. Well done. Beta signals are high. You're super stressed. You are already doing brain entrainment with visual and audio entrainment when you look at the news.
Let me ask you two questions before the break. Two things that deal with me, but other people do the same thing. I just want your response to this, and then we'll take a break and come back and continue with Monroe. Because I treat sleep as sport and I love it, So about a year ago, maybe a little longer, I'm reading. I find out about rain during sleep. Right. So I go and I pull up like 14 hours of rain. Right. And I jump into bed, put on all of my gear, my grounding stuff. And, dude, I'm fully into the. So anyway, I'm all suited up. I'm geared up. I got the rain cranking and lights out. That I went into the deepest, gnarliest, darkest, stumped sleep out, right? But I woke up in a panic. It took me too far. There's something, and it wasn't like it was night. It's very hard to explain, but it was, I would say on one side of it, it was pretty amazing, but it was like overdose. It was too much. And I tried it one more time. I did it for a half an hour. I could not. It induced something that was too strong. Am I making sense?
You are, but I'm not quite sure why.
It scared the crap out of me. It scared I was like, oof.
I'm wondering whether there's something a bit like evolutionary kind of being triggered there in
right
system.
Yeah.
Because that we have a lot of like adrenaline and cortisol that kind of starts to shoot up at certain times in the night, and I'm just wondering whether that system kind of got hijacked in some way by
I will never do it again. Yeah. And I know that there's people out there that do. I don't know. You're right. I didn't think about that. It could have been something that was triggered, something else deep in the subconscious. I don't know. But my second question before the break, I like audiobooks when I sleep. Mm-hmm. Okay. And usually data driven. I don't like things that take my attention off, like some drama, some fiction thing. No. I like nonfiction history, right? The most boring thing, but I have good sleep out of it. But do I retain that information?
Some part of you does. So this actually goes back to Bob and his sleep learning, because there were all these kind of like tapes where people would be trying to learn French in their sleep or whatever, and they go, well, they wake up in the morning and they don't remember anything. But actually some studies afterwards showed that if you do play something during the night and then you repeat it again first thing in the morning, you're more likely to retain the information than if you just studied in the morning without having something played in the night. So actually, as long as you do the before and after, you do the priming for the nighttime, but then recap the information in the morning, you'll feel like it's new, but it'll hold better. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so part of you is primed. Yeah.
Okay. Is it okay? Is it safe to listen to books, audio like that all night? Yeah. Is it okay?
Yeah, no problem. I mean, it's more to do with like during the night, the thalamus, or there's a structure in the middle of your brain which acts like a sensory gate, and it just chooses what is important to send up the chain of command or not. So when you're asleep, all the information from your senses is still coming in, and it gets to the thalamus, and the thalamus says, not important right now. But if somebody says your name, hey, Jimmy, or fire, that's going to get right through. So, information always comes into the brain, but there's a filtering process. So if it's important to you, if you say this is important for me, then it might keep you awake, so then maybe you have to deal with it. But if you say, okay, it's important to me, I like this to go in, but not wake me up. So there's a conditioning that can be added then, and then you do and I'm going to review this in the morning, then that might stick faster.
That's what I do. I don't. Oh, let me ask you this. It's not about me. I want your information. Do you listen to stuff at night when you sleep?
Not right now, because I've got he's going to be 4 next week. I've got a 4-year-old son in the bedroom, and just to be like lights out is good. Because there's nothing that breaks your meditation practice quite like somebody else being in the bed and kicking in the ribs. something like that. But
I love it too. You would change the world. But I have gotten to the point now. We need to take our break here. But
sure.
I cannot sleep in silence. I can't do it. My brain is too. It's moving too much. There's too much. I need something to pull me off of thought.
Sure. Yeah, our tracks can very much help, but we can talk about that when we get back.
Yeah, let's do that. Luigi, you stay right there. This is Fade to Black tonight, everybody. It's the Monroe Institute all night long. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be right back after this quick, short, I promise, break. Stay with us. And there it is. We'll be right back. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and get the Fade to Black official podcast. 2,000 episodes, all of them commercial free for just $2 a month. I am hosting, speaking, and presenting once again for the Conscious Life Expo, the largest conference of its type in the world. February 20th through the 23rd, 2026 at the LAX Hilton. Speakers, event, and schedule easy. Just visit consciouslifeexpo.com. I will be hosting and speaking at the Sedona Ascension Retreat, March 20th through the 22nd, 2026 in Sedona, Arizona. An amazing list of speakers, and it's beautiful Sedona. Come and hang out with us and just go to SedonaAscensionRetreats.com. I'm heading back to the Midwest for the Contact Modalities Expo, May 1st through the 3rd, 2026, in Delavan, Wisconsin, at the Lake Resort. It is beautiful. This is a great conference right in the heart of the Midwest, where I'm from. I'll see you there. Just go to Contact Modalities Expo, that's XPO.com. I will be hosting and presenting once again at Contact in the Desert. That's May 28th through June 1st, 2026, the largest UFO conference in the world. Come and hang out with us June 23rd through July 1st. Tickets and everything else that you need is at contactinthedesert.com. Want to change your life? Want that paradigm shift? Then visit Peru with Brian Forster and myself for the Inca Celebration of the Sun, June 23rd through July 1st, 2026. A full 10 days of visiting the country, all of the amazing sights, and of course, the celebration of the winter solstice. It's all simple to do. Go to hiddenincatours.com. Come join for the Monty Python Scotland Tour, August 1st through the 9th, 2026. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event where you get to go to the castles from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. August 1st through the 9th, 2026. Just visit HaleyARamsey.com. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut.
Jimmy Church, Gaia TV, Fade to Black, here at Machu Picchu with Brian Forster and Hidden Inca Tours. Amazing tour so far, Brian, but we're here to announce what we're going to do next year in 2026. What's going on?
Okay, November 2026, we're going to have our major tour of Peru and Bolivia, either a pre or post tour of Paracas and Nazca on the coast. And then after that, 6 days in Easter Island.
Bucket list, Easter Island. Come join Brian and I and his amazing team here at Hidden Inca Tours for Peru, Bolivia, and Easter Island. Signing out. Say goodbye, Brian.
Bye, gang.
River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's da. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right. Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Luigi Sciambarella is with us live from the Monroe Institute. He's in the control room right now. And I want to just continue where we left off, but let's get to some basic explanations of things and definitions. Binaural beats is something, it's a term that's used a lot in this community. People use it, I think, too freely and not maybe understanding what they're talking about. And then, of course, the Hemi-Sync technology. So let's start there. What are we talking about?
Okay. So binaural listening means that you're listening with two ears. So bi, to oral, and binaural listening means that, when you hear a sound located in one place in space, the sound hits one ear before the other one, and your brain works out the difference to locate the sound source in space. So that's the natural mechanism. Binaural beating takes advantage of that natural mechanism, and what it does is it splits the channel so that you've got a left and right separation. And now when you present two separate sounds that are very close in phase, but not identical, your brain tries to work out the location of the sound and can't do it. And because it can't do it, it starts to hallucinate, essentially, a differential, so a beat frequency, which is the difference between those two sounds. So if you've got, as I said before, 100 hertz in one ear, 104 in the other, the brain's saying, where's that sound coming from? It can't work it out. It creates something that's the synthesis of the two, essentially, or the differential of the two, and starts to pulse a new sound of 4 hertz. So you'll hear like a woo 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 sound. That's not on the track. That's your brain making up that sound. And then,
so it's a continuous sine wave of
so if you play two sine waves, yeah,
right.
And then on particular carrier frequencies, then your brain's working out the difference and pulsing out that difference, and then your brain, so your brain waves start to follow that frequency that your brain's making up by combining the two, if you know what I mean. So
fascinating. And how long does it typically take?
About 5 minutes.
Right.
Yeah. It takes about 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes for most people to click in. And so that's binaural beats. Now, what we found over time, and so the original binaural beat technology is what Bob Monroe called Hemi-Sync, short for hemispheric synchronization. Over time, we started to play around with phase, frequency, amplitude modulation as well in 3D sound environments, using Dolby Atmos and so on. So our latest development is what we call Monroe Sound Science. And that uses whatever works to get the sound into your brain, essentially. And we found that by using things that aren't just binaural beats, we can start to target states of consciousness that binaural beats aren't particularly effective with, such as gamma frequencies. And so, like, gamma is very high frequency in the brain. It happens frequently, but not in a conscious manner. And that is when people are having mystical experiences or very strong sense of presence experiences, really being in the present moment. This is something that we want to start to support the what we call the focus levels with. And so that means that people are more likely to stay with the experience, to feel that sense of immersion, to remember the experiences that they're having. So that's where the audio evolved.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite frequency?
It depends what I'm trying to do. I mean, if I'm trying to fall asleep, then certainly have some good, delta theta mixes. For lucid dreaming, then that theta boundary is very powerful. So I often use what's called focus 21, which is a kind of bridge state between physical and non-physical realities. So I like to use those signals when I'm meditating. Yeah.
Is there and please, I'm not trying to be cavalier or funny, but is there a fun frequency?
Probably something in the gamma ranges. Actually, people tend to report being happier when they listen to gamma, when they're actually producing gamma. Very intimately related with like compassion and self-compassion kind of states as well. So if you want to start to trigger your social brain, then gamma can really help with that. So those are the sorts of frequencies that I would say are very, very useful for triggering happiness and for a sense of contentment and joy. Yeah.
One other personal question. This is purely personal. I'm just asking. It's on my mind.
You go ahead. You can ask.
DMT.
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody tried binaural listening, achieving those states while on DMT?
I've not come across anything on that, just simply because I think the people that I've spoken with, they normally say that DMT is very, very short-lived as an experience.
It is.
It's usually, but I've spoken with people who have used psilocybin with binaural beats. That can be well supported, with certain types of frequencies that are going in. It kind of mellows out the context, if you know what I mean. So it's preparing the ground. So people listening to it, then maybe taking something like some plant medicine or something like that, and then carrying it on with the frequencies. But I mean, this is individual research, it's not
for sure. The only reason why I'm asking, and just for transparency, I've done DMT 3 times. Okay. But the experience with it, it's not a drug. I will never say that it's a drug.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's too fast acting. It gets into you don't have the time for it to enter your bloodstream when you're in this other reality. And you're right, it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You can extend it out, but the point is you are 100% in another dimension, in another reality that is just as real as this one, and you go through that experience. I've often wondered, what if you combined a lucid dreaming binaural experience and inducing a certain state while in this other dimension? What would that achieve, and what level of consciousness are we starting to observe?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, worthy of further research. My inclination with that would be to suggest something like a binaural or a Monroe sound science kind of primer, just to really prepare the ground,
knowledge base. Yes.
Yeah, and then you take that intention with the DMT experience, you know, and then I think that would maybe open it up a little bit more. But I mean, that's purely theoretical, but just to sort of say that I wouldn't necessarily say it helps to maybe combine, but rather, you know, it's part of a process, you know, that you do one, then the other, then the other. Maybe something like that could be useful.
I am so into frequency. I mean, look behind me. Obviously,
Yes.
right. This is
Beautiful
it's one of my
yeah.
and so I just think that the ancients were onto this. They understood frequency and its intention and its effect on consciousness and so forth. So I'm in Peru. I come back, and when I was in Peru, you're exposed to the music of different cultures, you know, ancient music, and it's beautiful, right? Okay. The Peruvian mountain pipes and all flutes and all that stuff. Anyway, so I come back from Peru and I go to my surgeon. I've now dabbled with DMT, experienced that. I go to Peru. I go there a couple times a year. I'll be there next month. I come back from that and I go to my oral surgeon, Luigi, to get some complex work done. And they're going to put me under. All right. And as I live and breathe, I got the thing on my nose and they're going, okay, man, take a deep breath. Here we go. And they're, you know, and I'm going under. And they play frigging Peruvian flute music. What were the odds of that? Right. So now I'm experiencing that. And then what my shaman was playing, the music during the DMT thing. And now it's all the same music. And holy crap, it was an overload of sensory dimensional experience. Right. And so I went back to that. It's frequencies, man. It's bleeping frequencies that are triggering the brain here, that all of these experiences are nearly identical. It's amazing. So if that, all of that combined with what you guys are doing out at the Monroe Institute, I think we're all talking about the same sensations.
Yeah. And you know, there's an interesting thing. Like we've got a lab in the north of England as well as the ones that are here at the Monroe Institute. And one of the things that we're exploring there is that spectrum, which goes all the way from full sensory immersion, which is what you're like you're stacking things essentially, to full, so like even light entrainment and you know, as well as the sound, and you know, you're really giving it to all of the, like flotation tanks, you name it, you can just do loads of things to the body and stimulate the vibroacoustic kind of chairs and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, let's stimulate all of the senses, and it's almost like an overload, all the way to full sensory deprivation, where you take it, you strip it all back. You know, I mean, there's some fascinating research coming out of like dark room retreats, for instance. If you're 72 hours in pure black, you know, the total pitch black, and your senses just super heightened, you know, so the sense of taste is just like amazing, you know, in hearing and so on. But it gives you a full system reset, you know, so that actually if you're quite highly stressed, or even people experiencing like PTSD starts to reset, you know.
Well, so yeah, you're right about the dark. Yeah. The darkness thing is real, because once you come out of a completely dark situation and you are exposed to light, now you have a serious melatonin, serotonin conversion and other chemistry in your body that is firing off. And it's going to trigger all kinds of things that you would not expect to be triggered, which goes back to the work of Monroe. Now, if we back this all the way up, the ancients knew about this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that we can do now that maybe the ancients wouldn't have had access to in an obvious way is, like, we can, you know, like with the EEG studies that we've been doing, we can really follow, and this is where something like AI is really useful, because we can feed in tons of data and it'll start to spot certain patterns. So it's like, oh yeah, we see this spike, but we can see that just before that, this and this were working together, and it led to that spike. Oh, so rather than just pinpointing where maybe the peak of something was, we can kind of use it predictively and sort of say, well, actually, if we support these frequencies with these frequencies and these frequencies, then that will lead to something popping up out the other end, and something that might be more like a peak experience. So we can stack signals. So normally if you take like a shamanic drum and it's beating at 6 hertz or something like that, that works beautifully. Put it in a cave where there's some really nice resonance, and then you got standard waves or whatever else. You basically go binaural beats, or
right. No, you're not wrong here, man. You're not wrong. You said shamanic drum beats. Think about the Rastafarians, in Jamaica, where these 3-day drum ceremonies, achieving these states of consciousness through that constant thing that is going on. This has been practiced for thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah, it's been practiced for thousands of years, and I mean and it's still very effective, and there's something else there though, like these shamanic practices, they have a community aspect to them. There's maybe rites of passages attached to them. There's something about bringing people together. And whether you're doing that with a drum, whether you're doing it through singing, whether you're doing it through dancing, you can see even with like the whirling dervishes, for instance, they connect into this beautiful altered state of consciousness through the spinning, essentially, and there's music and rhythmic drumming and dancing and so I mean there's many ways where there's this kind of repetitive kind of cycling type of thing going on, but also you're not just there with your individual sense of self. You actually transcend the self in that community that is a beautiful container for supporting that expansion. So what I want to emphasize how important it is to do these practices with other people. And I think that that's something that people are really getting to, and they're really starting to realize that it's not just about, put the headphones on and listen to a track. You can totally do that. But we teach educational programs at the Institute because we know that the technology is only one element. Bob Monroe talks about the Hemi-Sync process because it wasn't just the tech. The process was that you immerse yourself in listening to the tech. It's guided. You're with fellow explorers who are also very curious. There's an openness to experience.
You're repeating and training. You're repeating and training. It's like muscle memory.
I mean, if you look at, what traits people have, what personality traits, openness to experience and immersion, sensory immersion, are the two major traits that will indicate whether somebody is likely to get something beneficial out of these training programs or not. And that applies to taking DMT or ayahuasca or whatever it is.
Right. Singing bowls. Now you're talking about spatial placement, right?
Well, yeah.
Okay. So you're sitting with a group of people. Singing bowls are kicking off. Those are going on. You're doing some breath work or whatever. You're starting the thing. But spatially, when your eyes are closed, you're listening to the bowls that are at different frequencies. And so spatially, they're going to be placed out there. And spatially, they're going to be different for everybody else in the room because they're in a different position around the bowls. Correct? Right? Right. And then it has to, I'm guessing here because I've gone through the experience. If you're spatially placing one singing bowl and its frequency and the second one comes in and you're placing that, are you achieving the same? Is your brain syncing in the same way?
It will, that as an offset? I mean, that's kind of that's the idea. And if you look at some of these, these sacred sites, for instance, there's a whole field of archaeoacoustics, which looks at the layout of a particular room, the structure of it, the materials used, whatever it is. some of these create standing waves, for instance. So even though you've actually located the ball over here, the sound's actually bouncing around beautifully all over the place. So people are immersed in that. And then add layers to it. So it's more like what we might describe as like monaural kind of pulsing, because you're getting both frequencies in each ear, but your brain then works out the difference there as well. And the isolation into the ear creates a different level of immersion. But I think what you're also getting when you've got the singing bowls, for instance, is that your body's starting to vibrate because it's an instrument, So actually, it's not just a frequency in your head. You're getting into the heart, in the gut brain. So your body's mostly water, so you get in that
water, right.
So I think there's something very powerful about playing sound out in the open and not just into the head. Although I mostly listen to it in the head, but I mean, like when we do meditations as a group, for instance, and you got speakers in the room and so on, those can be really powerful meditations. Now, based on the neuroscience alone, it would say, oh, well, that should be a slightly lighter meditation, but something else carries it, that connection and the actual resonance in the body as well, which, it warrants, again, further research, because how sound impacts the body is still in its infancy in terms of the research.
How can you, again, I don't know the answers to this, but I'm sure that everybody's thinking the same thing, which is this. How safe is it to practice on your own? If I go to Gateway, right? I sign up, I go to Gateway. Do I leave with like a CD? Is it safe for me to go home and pop in headphones alone?
Yeah, it is. I mean, these are sound patterns that we've been using for over 50 years. I mean, so in terms of the Gateway program itself, it's very robust. We know that it's something that works very well at home. We've just launched actually a very individual kind of self-paced version of the Gateway Voyage Online. So it's myself and Alan Evans, who's the chief exec at Monroe, facilitating, introducing the exercises, what you can do and so on. So giving the guidance, but then you listen to the exercise and you can kind of carry on in the self-paced way. We know that works really, really well. I mean, it's more to do with, well, at home, are you going to be listening to 4 or 5 meditations a day? Probably not, so it's not the same level of immersion, and the group connection isn't quite there, but it is something that is worth exploring in terms of, I mean, that's how I started. I was doing all these sorts of things at home. What can be very useful though is that when things are starting to come up for you, that you've got someone to talk to. So like joining the community forums and so on can be very, very useful, because like Bob Monroe, he's having the vibrational state. He thinks he's going crazy or there's something wrong with him. Well, if you just ask on the forum, hey, I'm getting these like vibrations, it's shaking in my body or whatever. Has anybody else had that? Yeah.
Yeah. You can't
get somebody to normalize it a bit, because you can have a lot of weird experiences on the fringes. And it's just markers that everything's okay, that you're progressing in some way.
You can't do this while driving.
I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, it's not that it's dangerous, but that people can start to zone out. So you might miss a turn off repeatedly. I mean, it's like, well, that's what typically happens. Like people just start to, they're driving along, they're fully on autopilot. Normally, you would expect that some part of you would kick in and say, "Okay, I need to turn here now," but that can be overridden. So, it's not recommended to listen to any of this sort of stuff while driving. No, I mean, if there was something that was more of a mindfulness practice, that would be fine. But, most people want to be, trying to aim for like expanded states experiences. Probably the car isn't.
Yeah. Not cool to do on my Harley, right?
No. Probably not. No.
Big disclaimer. I want to get this up in the chat. where can everybody, we're going to do this again at the end of the show, but since we're here now and there is this new program, where can everybody sign up for that?
So if you actually just go on the Monroe Institute website, so monroeinstitute.org, then you'll see that it's already listed on there as Gateway Voyage Online. That's the best place to start with it. I mean, I could always try to find a link or something like that, but
no, I have it here. Oh, there it is. It's right here. Okay. Yeah. So it's right there on the homepage. Bill, get that up in the chat for everybody. It's very simple. It's right there.
The thing with that is that, I mean, it's the educational program. We try to recreate the experience as much as possible of what happens on campus. So that is, you've got the tracks you can use. You can review the videos and listen to the tracks as many times as you want. You've got it. And that's really what we wanted to be able to do. So when you were saying, like, do you get a CD? When you do Gateway, you get the tracks, you get to stream them and listen to them as many times as you want afterwards. And we wanted to do that, just to make sure that people have something to practice with, when they finish the program.
Man, you've got a great headshot here. Look at you. You got a great, let's talk about, and thank you for that, Bill, for getting that up in the chat. What are some of the steps that people can take at home to practice lucid dreaming?
Lucid dreaming. Well, first of all, increase your dream recall. I mean, I saw that in the chat that some people saying, like, I don't dream or I don't remember my dreams. You do dream. It's just it's a recall issue. And it's a relationship issue, actually. It's how you're relating to yourself. If you're saying that dreams aren't important, or that, you just wake up in the morning and say, oh, I need some coffee, and then you just just taking a pause and just settling yourself a little bit and just saying, what was I dreaming? What am I feeling right now? What was I dreaming? Then and just allow whatever needs to come up, and just maybe making a few notes or whatever. And then before bed, setting the intention that when I wake in the morning, I'll remember my dreams clearly and in full detail, or however you want to phrase it. And then going to sleep, having a dream journal, starting that process can be really, really useful. The other thing is that really knowing the why do you want to do that is going to drive the behavior far better than any technique. If you have a clear intention, so if I want to have an out-of-body experience, I don't make the out-of-body experience the goal. That's a vehicle to something else. So it might be that I want to connect with a deceased friend. That is my goal. And if I have a strong emotion attached to that, not to the point where it's like overwhelming me, but, just like I have a clear desire, and I set an open intention with that. This is what I think I want, but I'm also leaving it open to another part of me to guide me into something that, I might need in where I am right now. That's what I'll go with. But I set that intention every night, and that will drive the behavior. So if it's an out of body or a lucid dream that gets me to that goal, I don't really care, because my goal is to make connection with a deceased friend or whatever it is. So this is like, why do you want to do this? What would you do if you found yourself out of body? And most people freak out, they just, I'm out of body, or they'll try to fly around. It's like, well, okay, have a little bit of a plan, so what would you like to do? I mean, would you like to visit a place? Would you evoke a quality? Would you want to connect with your higher self or experience unconditional love? Whatever it is, but like, you set that as your intention and then allow it to unfold. That will drive the experience far greater. So specifically for lucid dreams, I would be doing things like dream journaling daily, and then like some reality checks, what's called state testing. So you at various points throughout the day, and you can do this as many times as you want, check, am I dreaming right now? And seriously answer that question, because in a dream, you can easily ask yourself the question, am I dreaming right now? And you'll say, yeah, it's waking reality. And you just carry on. It's like, if you really check, then, placing a finger through your hand or checking that your fingers are all in the right place and so on. If you're really paying attention, you'll start to take that behavior into the dream. And then when you do that check in the dream, you'll recognize that you're dreaming. So that is an entry point then into the dream. But again, that's a way into the dream. But now that you're lucid, what would you like to do? So having that plan is going to be very important as well. So maybe just dream plan and only review it as much as it takes you to brush your teeth. It doesn't have to be anything that you're doing for absolutely ages. It's just very simple, 2 minutes, whatever it is that you're brushing your teeth. This is what I think I want, and I'm open to anything greater than this as well. This or better, essentially, is what I set as an intention.
Saying it that way, which is fascinating, it seems that you are suggesting that although our eyes are closed, our head is on a pillow, we are actually in another reality, another dimension.
Yeah, well, in a dream you are. I mean, a dream is another reality.
Same as this one. It's just there.
Somewhere else. I mean, how else does it present? The only difference is that, like, here I treat this reality as if I'm a subject observing a world of objects, and I do the same in a dream.
Right.
But when I'm lucid in a dream, I realize that it's all subject. And I'm just identifying with a character within that space. That's the next step. So then when you realize, oh, this is all me, not me as a personality, but like the deeper me, this is all of my unconscious, then what does that part of me represent? And how do I interact with it? Why is it that I prefer this character over that one? And in a nightmare, for instance, which is actually one of the best uses of lucid dreaming, if you're in the nightmare, which part of me am I treating as if it's completely separate from me, that I don't even want to go anywhere near, maybe run away from or reject of myself? Those dreams are fascinating for me. When I used to have nightmares, and I mean, I've not had a nightmare for maybe a good 20 years, something like that, because the way that I work with them is that I would look at, well, okay, yeah, you got me, you got my attention, but rather than trying to escape from the dream, which is what people typically do when they become lucid in a nightmare, they go, oh, I'm dreaming, okay, get out of here. That's training like a flight response. But stay in it and say, okay, you're me. So which part of me am I not in conversation with, in connection with, and just be open to receive?
Why haven't you had a nightmare in 20 years?
Because I work with it in a way that integrates it.
So you don't want to?
It doesn't need to show it me in that way. Nightmares are a way of your unconscious highlighting, flagging you down and saying something isn't right. So if you're working with your dreams regularly,
why do I find that so entertaining, Luigi? Why is it like? Why do you ride roller coasters?
You could do it that way, but I mean, if it was really you in a nightmare rather than just spooking yourself, which might be slightly different, a nightmare would have a very strong emotional charge to the point that it would usually rip you out of the dream. That can be really, really unsettling for people. They might not want to go back to sleep because it's that difficult. Some people get PTSD from nightmares. It's not that just an indicator that you have PTSD. So they avoid wanting to sleep. And if you have a nightmare, that is a great dream plan because you can remember it well. The emotions are charged. By trying to avoid it means that you're more likely to have another one. So you can think, okay, well, the next time I have that scenario of the nightmare, instead of running, I'm going to turn around and say to that part of me, what do you want to show me? What is it that I can learn about myself? How can I relate to you in a different way? And then not force integration, because even just watching it can actually be enough to create movement. But just to be open to that part of yourself that maybe you've been pushing away, and see what happens. And then that can be very, very healing. I mean, that's what I found personally. But like when I'm working with therapy clients on a one-on-one basis on nightmare resolution, usually doesn't take more than a couple of sessions with that client for them to really get like, oh, it's me. so why am I running away from myself, or why am I attacking myself or being attacked by myself? Let me just slow that down and just connect. And when you're not frozen in your perspective, because from the lucid perspective, you don't have to identify as the character in the dream that's being attacked.
Sure.
What happens if you become the nightmare figure, for instance? That changes the power dynamic instantly.
Oh, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that tonight.
Yeah, give that a go.
Dude chasing me, right? I'll be the dude chasing me.
Yeah, exactly. Why not be the nightmare? Because from the nightmare figure, you've got all the power. Right. So what is that power that maybe isn't being integrated in?
Is it okay? Let me ask you this.
Well, that's one
I don't want to sound too juvenile here.
No,
if I change that profile where I am now the antagonist, I'm the one. Do I see myself? Am I chasing myself?
You'd be chasing another character, but your idea of
another character, I wouldn't change.
Yeah, so yourself would be the nightmare figure. So when you're chasing that dude who's running away, you'd be like, well, what the heck's his problem? Or you'd have an insight into why you're trying to do that. And it's usually
could you pick the person? Okay, could you pick the person that you're chasing that you don't like, and then, well, is it possible to share dreams where that person that you are chasing calls you up the next day? Dude, you were in my dream last night.
That's, synchronicities do happen like that, but usually when you're chasing a person in the dream, it's just a part of your psyche playing the role of that person and not that actual person.
It's not like an ex-girlfriend or something.
Yeah. Now, when you start to go into out-of-body territory, then you might be connecting with that person.
Right.
They might not remember the experience, but maybe they might, have had a dream about something that seems to mirror it. But usually, like, he's like, oh, I dreamt about you last night. Well, no, you didn't. You dreamt about yourself playing the role of that other person,
Got
so
you.
What is it that person represents in me? What qualities am I evoking by being my mother in the dream or whatever, It's not like, oh, it's my mom. It's me playing the role of my mom. So what is it about that character that's being represented over here? It's a metaphor,
I had well, let me ask you about that, because this is an actual thing. This maybe 5 months ago, I have a dream about an old friend of mine from high school, a current date now, but old friend of mine of 40, 50 years. His name's Bruce. And the dream was he sends me a text that he's selling his car and wants me to come over to his house and see it. And he sends me a picture of it, and it's a 1969 purple Hemi-Cuda, very specific car. And so I go over to his house, and it's parked in front of his house. And then he changes his mind and won't sell me the car. The day after I had that dream, I get a text from Bruce's wife, Julie, and she's beautiful. I've known her forever, 40 years. And I said, okay, hang on. Yeah, okay, I'll call you now about it. It was about something else. I go, you know what? Something weird. Bruce was in my dream last night. She goes, oh, really? What was it about? I said, he sent me a picture of a purple Hemi-Cuda 69 that he's selling. She goes, what'd you just say? I said, he's selling a purple Hemi-Cuda, invited me over to the house, and then he changed his mind. She goes, Jimmy, he's got a purple 69 Hemi-Cuda in the garage that nobody knows about. I bought it for him 20 years ago, and it's just sitting there. I go, are you saying he has one? She goes, yes. I was like, now let's analyze that for a second. Is that a premonition? She then tells me we were going to pull it out of the garage and throw a battery charger on it and fire it up. I would, selling it as like this conversation. Now, what's going on here? Is that consciousness? Is that the universe coming back and affecting me? Is it premonition? Is some kind of precog kind of weirdness? I didn't know he had this car, and it was so oddly specific, Luigi.
Yeah,
that
I mean,
can't
you were tuned in. You were definitely pulling the information from the field. I mean, you know, this is what Jung referred to as the collective unconscious. You know, you're in that kind of shared space. There is a precognitive element to that. I mean, precognitive dreams do happen. You know, if you dream journal regularly, you'll find them. You know, there's certain dreams that I've had that I've thought, I really, like in the daytime, I really have a strong sense of deja vu here, you know, and what's going on here? And then I'll look in my dream journals and I'll find something that might have happened a year before in terms of the dream, you know. Right. So if you don't write it down, you won't know. You know, that's the thing. That's the thing. You know, most people will then say, "Oh, deja vu," you know, whatever that means. But actually, there can be a lot of precognitive dreaming that goes on there. So the question is, you know, what's the resonance from you? You know, because if he's trying to sell the car or whatever is going on, then what is it that's going on in your psyche that's connecting with that message? You know, because like we can tune into things. Usually, like, you know, if there's going to be a disaster or, you know, an accident or something like that, people might have precognitive dreams as a heads up. So there's a resonance there. It says, hey, don't get yourself in danger. You know, there's a survival mechanism that's kicking in. You know, there's something that's going to happen in the family or whatever it is, you know, that then tunes in. I would have like time of death type dreams, you know, so somebody's in the family who dies, I would normally get like a visitation dream or something like, you know, that they did tell me that they're going home or some metaphor that means.
Really? I've never had one of those.
I've had probably about 5 now.
Wow.
You know, so it's like, okay. And it's usually like time of death, you know, or within.
So what do you do? Do you call up your sister? Okay, man, have you checked on Aunt Helen?
No, we actually usually get the phone call from some other member of the family saying, you know, such a body's died. But I mean, it's a good heads up, you know? And so, yeah, that's usually how it works out.
Now, let me ask you another, for me, a very important question. This has happened very frequently, and I know that I'm not the only person to talk about this, but an example, this is like 2 weeks ago. I woke up 4 o'clock in the morning, use the bathroom. I get what, you know, so I go and I come back in. I look at the clock, it's 4. I typically get up at 7:30 in the morning. I don't have an alarm. My eyes pop open between 7:30 and 8, but it's 4 o'clock. I crawl back into bed. I wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning. I look at the clock. Now I know I had the longest, most complex, deep dream that spanned a couple of weeks in detail.
Yeah.
How is it possible to have a 2-week dream, totally cognizant of what, you know, what's going on in 3 hours?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Well, you're slipping out of relative time, that's for sure. Those experiences.
Is this typical?
No, it's not. It's not typical, but it's not like unheard of. I mean, I've had those experiences as well. Several trainers that I know of at the Monroe Institute that have had that as well. There's a friend of mine who I teach lucid dreaming with, Thomas. He had like a lifetime. You know, so he was like, he came back in great detail. He's kind of living that lifetime now, you know, in terms of like a kind of like a precognitive dream of everything else up until the point of his death in this reality. You know, he just nailed it.
Wow.
You know, those kind of things happen, you know. Now that's really rare. You know, I only know one case of that, but like, I mean, it's a kind of idea that Christopher Nolan explored in Inception. You know, this idea that, you know, you could go deeper into the dream and that then time distorts. in Monroe speak, we call that type of territory focus 15, like the no time state, or where time just kind of skews differently relative to this reality. But, you know, I've come back and written, you know, pages and pages and pages of notes between snooze button presses. You know, like the alarm goes off, I just hit the snooze button and drop back into the dream. And then this whole sequence plays out. And then the alarm goes off again. And I go, well, that was 5 minutes, you know.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Well,
Unless in this other dimension,
yeah,
time is not the same.
It's not the same, and you're not constrained by physical movement. I mean, you know, you're traveling at the speed of thought, so it could still be that, you know, neurons firing and opening up a sequence of events, but, you know, you're not having to physically walk to the door and open it and all that kind of stuff. That takes time in this reality. But when you're in an altered state, why do you have to move like this one? I mean, this is the thing that I also find with out of body. Like most of the time when people have out of body experiences, they're still kind of moving like they do in this reality. They're just in another body that's, you know, an energy duplicate or whatever. But why do you need to do that? You could be instantly anywhere, you know, any when. So why limit yourself to having to move around like you do in this reality? So just be instantly at your friend's house. Well, why not? You know, and like with your remote viewing, I mean, remote viewing, you're instantly in the information stream. You're not having to go anywhere. You're not having to go even out of body. The data's here, you know, and you're tuning into it. And you're really trying to separate out which is the intuition that's filling in blanks versus the raw data, you know. And when you get the raw data, you get the hits.
Right. I don't know how long it takes a typical author to write a 400-page book. Okay, but I know it's not in a day. All right, it's not. But I've told this story many times, but it's still something I haven't resolved. So I had a complete dream of me writing a book. The foreword, the preface, chapter 1, typing it out line by line, correcting it, blah, 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 all the way to the end. Okay. Yep. Now, the whole book, one dream.
Yeah.
That, and my memory is every single page, every story, everything, it's all there. It's complete, but I had it in one night. That doesn't make any sense. In this reality, it doesn't make any sense. But you apply it into the dream, just maybe time doesn't operate the same way in that dream dimension.
It doesn't typically. You know, there have been some experiments where they've like somebody's become lucid in a dream and then they've tried to count, and it's the same sort of guess as they would have in this reality. You know, so there's a relative time there. But typically when you're not lucid in a dream, then time can be massively distorted. And it can work both ways. You know, it can be like at Monroe, for instance, some of our meditations are like, 45 minutes. Some people experience that like hours, and some people experience it like 5 minutes. You know, they'll go, whoa, how long was that meditation? You know, that felt super short for me. And others will go, that went on forever. Such a long track. And you go, no, it was 40 minutes, you know. So you can surprise yourself in both directions. But like to write a full book, you know, that's quite rare. I mean, you know, have that Paul McCartney. That's better than one song. But you know, that's very impressive, and especially
for sure.
But no, go on. Sorry.
No, it just forces me into chasing why. You know, how is this going on? Why is this going on? And then I'll do the other part, which is so important with this, is I'll then look into the science of it. And is there something else here that will support this crazy thought that I'm having about, you know, time and how it operates differently in a dream? But science needs to come back and seriously apply controlled situations with consciousness, with sound technology, with frequencies, and what is going on here in lining up the brain. I think it's very, very important.
Yeah, and it's very early in terms of that type of science. We're only just starting to figure out that these states aren't absolutes. There was a study done maybe about 5 years ago now where the experimenters were asking questions to a subject who was lucid in a dream, and the subject was able to answer back using eye movements. So they would give simple maths questions like 2 times 4, and they would signal 8 times with their eyes and so on. So you can have two-way communication between somebody in one state of consciousness and another. It's not something new that, Bob Monroe, when he had the explorers, these were the original volunteers doing just the research early days. When he had the original explorers, I mean, they were able to talk to him while having expanded states experiences, some out of body experiences and so on. So they would be in the booth and in the lab, in this kind of like sensory deprivation type of environment, and he would be talking to them, they will be talking to him, and they're playing with different sounds. I mean, then people listen to that type of experience and say, oh, they couldn't have been having out of body experiences because they're still able to talk with Bob, and it's like, no, you're making it too literal and separate. You can still be, this is why the phasing model is really useful, because you can still be tuned into one channel but still kind of turn the dial a little bit and tuning into something else. So you can move by degrees between these different states of consciousness. You can be 10% here, aware of your body, talking, but 90% in the experience, and vice versa. And this is something that, when you know that, like when even with dreaming, you can be in really deep dream thresholds, and then actually, no, I'm lucid in that, and so, but I'm also aware that something's going on in my body in bed, so I adjust my position and then go back into the dream a bit more. You can turn the dial. This is the beauty of what we're doing with the technology as well, because the technology allows you to slow down and appreciate that territory more. Normally we fly through it, and like, how do you hold this without meditating for years? You don't need to. The tech's going to scaffold the experience, it's supporting it, and then you can focus on, like, well, what do I want to use this state for right now, or what do I want to learn about myself, and so on. So it allows a deeper engagement with the states than we've typically been able to do. Mystics could do it because they had a natural ability, or that they've been focusing on training certain things for decades. But we don't need to do that now. I mean, we still need to do the training, but it's not that it takes 40 years to get into that state. Now it's like you get in that state anyway, and now you can train it for 40 years. Do
you think that last question, probably the most complex one, but do you think that one day we will be able to record our dreams and capture them like a film?
I think that there's already research that shows that it's moving in that direction. What we'll need to train, for instance, is, what do these certain signatures look like in the brain when somebody's thinking of like people or objects or very specific things, and then there'll be like a mapping. So it won't be an exact recording, but I think it'll be like pieced together, because this particular pattern typically means that the person's looking at a boat. So it'll put like a boat there,
Right.
And so on. So something like that was already done by some Japanese researchers, and I think that'll just get a little bit more refined over time. But it won't be like somebody's recording your thoughts, because
I think DARPA's doing that right now, Luigi. Plugging in right into the back.
They don't need to record it. People are just splaying their thoughts on social media anyway.
Yeah. Thank you so much. What a great conversation, man. Where can everybody reach out to you, follow your work?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can follow me on Instagram. If you can remember to type my full name there, then that's my handle. And yeah, I mean, if you go on the Monroe Institute website, you'll have my contact details on there. Anybody who wants to reach out about anything, feel free to do so. We'll be sharing a lot of what's going on with our research in the labs and everything else. And yeah, so I mean, I get around, so feel free to just go on the Monroe site and find me.
Yeah, you guys are the best. I'll be over in the UK in August.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
let me know.
Be there. I'm going to head up to Scotland. I'm going to go into London, do a couple of things, and then head up into Scotland.
I saw that you're doing a tour in Scotland with the Monty Python thing. Near Inverness is where the Monroe family home is. So that is the ancestral home of the Monroe family.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Fool's Castle is the place. It's near Inverness.
Yeah, we're going there. I'm so looking forward to it. Not only Scotland's wonderful, Edinburgh's wonderful. It's haunted, it's crazy, it's paranormal, it's supernatural, all the weirdness, all it's all of that. But man, Monty Python. Let's tie the two together and let's have fun. We're going to the Bridge of Death, man. Yeah, we're going to the Bridge of Death.
Cool.
Yeah. So maybe I'll see you when I come over. Okay.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Luigi.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. Yeah.
I look forward to our next conversation, man.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great night. Luigi Sciambarella. What a great conversation. And yes, that wraps this week on Fade to Black. We are off tomorrow. I just saw Jessica's post in the chat about that. So I'm heading out to Sedona. If you're going to Sedona, I will see you there. And everybody enjoy your weekend. I'll be live streaming from the event and posting stuff and having fun. So I'll be hanging out with you this weekend, but we'll be right back here on Monday. So until then, all I've got is go backly tapping. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go backly tappy.